Hey, what is up, guys? We are now live for another episode of the Quickcast podcast, now on episode 2. And yes, we do have some podcast crashers. It's not only me and Raph this time, but we have Blackenblue as well as Daks joining us. Gentlemen, welcome. We just finished a ranked game, and we were looking pretty good. I love the synergy.
Dude, it took a while though. I was like a few rounds because we were talking about so many other
so
things.
that's what counts.
And then we were like, "Nah, we got this win." And then they went like what from 9-3 to 9-10. We almost threw it away actually. Almost. Almost.
You know, it's fine. It's fine. You know, I felt like we just needed to get that one round and we'll snowball, which was what definitely happened. Yeah. All right. So last week, since you guys weren't here, we'll just wanted to give you guys a quick recap. Me and Raph here talked about a couple of things as our favorite players. Raph being Blurred, mine was Georgie. Our anticipation as to what could be happening, as well as the power rankings that were definitely stated after that weekend's match. You know, with Oasis versus Naos, as well as the SR Nacague versus Action PH. And I think that's already solidified like the 1, 2, 3, 4, the top 1 to 4 of the teams here. So I guess the predictions that we had last week, Raph, was pretty accurate for the most part, because I think we were were you banking on Oasis? I can't remember. Was I banking on Naos? I can't remember now.
Well, I basically said that number 1 and 2 is gonna be a toss-up between Oasis and Naos, and I feel like all of us actually agreed on that, right? But I feel like with the way that things have been going, it's definitely a clear cut that Oasis is on the top spot, and rightfully so, right? I feel like everybody also agreed that with a whole football team, with a whole basketball team, you should be number 1. Anything that isn't number 1 is, I guess, unacceptable, especially with their standards and the players that they have.
Dude, they have 4 coaches. Come on. And one of them is on broadcast. When you have a coach already on broadcast, kind of says a lot, right? I can't wait though. If we end up with Fluffy casting an Oasis game, I'm gonna smile the whole time.
Yeah. Are they gonna let that? Are they gonna actually schedule something like that?
Let that happen? That would be funny.
I want that to happen, man.
I mean, they have enough coaches.
Well, based on personal experience, it's painful.
How about you two?
To cast your own team.
And Dax, did you had any predictions that didn't go correctly from last weekend's matches from any of the teams, or was it all according to Keikaku or according to plan?
I think I got mine right.
I think it generally was right. I think the biggest surprise.
I didn't need to predict
Did you get Game Lab versus Puggers,
That's
right,
true.
Dax? Did you think?
But if we asked you by then, would you have thought that Puggers could have won?
Puggers could have, because they play the same style. Like,
that's true.
I brought this up on broadcast. Like, if anyone can really beat Game Lab at their own game, it might be Puggers. Or at the same time, if one of these two teams decide, hey, you guys want to punch each other? Yeah, sure. That's what's gonna happen, and that's exactly what happened, right? I still remember freaking out about that round. Remember that one, Nico? There's like, let's plant. Never mind, let's not plant. Let's all swing and just die.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Dude, I was watching
just
Overwatch.
Full swing it.
Man.
Who needs to plant the spike?
Yeah.
I think as far as like predictions go, I think I got on record Naos versus Oasis wrong. Although I knew Oasis was gonna win, they were my mind prediction, my esports answer, but my heart answer was like, I want Naos just to be able to throw things for a loop just a bit, because Oasis are probably the number 1 right now. If you have a shift up to that, it'd be cool.
Where's the B in our heart?
What? None of those letters in there.
Yeah, SBE will always be remembered.
I got Oasis none, that's for sure. I predicted Oasis. I even called the 2-0 of Oasis Action PH. I felt like it was finally time for them to actually keep a lead, you know, instead of almost throwing it away. Case in point against Naos, smile. So besides that, I think things are going to plan. Probably the biggest surprise is my number 1 Philippine team, SR Nacague.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
what
even if SR Nacague won, I don't think they kind of won in a very convincing fashion that weekend against Abaddon Abyss, right? Because if I look at the stats here, or the the matchup. Oh wait, that's an image. Hang on, give me like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I have a personal take on that like matchup.
Yeah.
Because like, it's SR versus Abaddon, and I've already said my piece about Abaddon. Abaddon is a young team that loves to duel. It's literally their forte, right? I feel like SR was just literally overplaying their hand. I feel like if they just played the way they would normally play, it would have been easier for them, or it would have been smoother.
Yeah.
But there were times where it's like, hey, we're gonna take these duels. Let's do it, and then.
If we keep it real about them, right? If we keep it real about SR Nacague, it's we say. I mean, before everything else, I was just saying to everyone, guys, do you believe that SR Nacague is the best Philippine team? And in a way, it was factually true. Like no jokes aside, because they were the guys playing their hearts out in the off season. They were the ones playing to represent us in SEA and APAC, but once these squads come up, once Oasis decided to bring up the whole roster, once Now has decided to be playing again, Action PH actually forming up as a squad, the power dynamic kind of shifts, because SR Nacague is that kind of team that plays well as a team, but individually they haven't really shined as bright against all the other invites we've had here so far, correct? So this is where it's kind of becoming a bit of a problem. We've seen this before, even when it was Team Secrets, kind of like last year in VCT PH, that Philippine teams would beat them, but not SEA teams, and it just might be a byproduct that you can't really play in your backyard the same way you think to play across the street or across the region.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ruff.
Huh? No, I was just agreeing.
Well, Nico, yeah, go.
No, I was gonna say that to be fair, during the time that SR Nacague was like the best team, arguably, because they were the only ones playing, was because they were the only ones playing. Everybody else was also kind of like building a roster. Oasis was like, oh, we'll play this tournament, but we're really just scrimming. Now it's like, do we even have a full roster yet? And that's really what
kind of see again what Dax mentioned with the series. If anybody is curious about just going to the matchup that they had, VLR.gg, right? The first map was kind of interesting in terms of the stats. So if you're gonna just deep dive just very quickly on it, it wasn't, I believe, Exotic that was the most explosive in that particular first game on Ascent. It was more, I believe, Slatham and Asta that really got a lot of the impact plays for Abaddon Abyss. And I think that's where you kind of see where Dax was mentioning that SR Nacague thrive together, but sometimes they do lack the star power individually, even though they do have Zind. And Abaddon Abyss kind of has the opposite. They have really good star power, but at the same time, they're not at that level where their teamwork is really outstanding. It's good, but it's not like top. Let's say like very top tier PH standings.
It's not cream of the crop just yet.
Yeah,
but
not just yet.
That's what I was talking about, right? Like, yeah, sure, SR Nacague could have literally just played their game the way they normally do. But I feel like that's also been one of their biggest weaknesses. And I honestly say that we'll get to this team later. Sky Empire has the same type of weakness. They're in their heads a little too much. They tend to overplay a lot of the rounds. And it's like, dude, just do your thing. We've seen you do your thing for the longest time, which is crazy to me because I think these two actually brought it up on broadcast where it's SR Nacague that's been probably the most inspected team here. And we've seen them grind all throughout, 2022 in the local scene. And, of course, the Africa Invitational at the tail end of the year. So you would think they would be the ones to handle nearly most of these or all these situations best. But I don't know what's going on. Suddenly they start banning their best map, Pearl. And it's just raising quite a few questions on what might happen like in the coming weeks.
Yeah, makes sense. And again, just to add as well, they did have, I think, 2 games with Abaddon Abyss that they actually swapped out Naru to Maxi. And that's when they started actually winning as well, right? So that also begs the question, Maxi doesn't have the insane firepower that I think Naru has, but I think Maxi just plays well because he's been with the team longer. He has a much better understanding with when to play your utility at which time, and it just meshes well, I think, with the aspect of what is SR Nacague. So
yeah, I mean, I even saw it in like Twitch chat once. Like, why isn't Maxi playing most of the time then? I mean, to be fair, he was with the team, like, he was playing with the team for a lot of that Africa Invitational where we did see them, go towards their highest international winnings so far, but I'm not too sure if it's the right choice just yet. But so far, at least on most recent results, I mean, it got them the win they needed, so
quick.
One could
I
argue.
do think Maxi is a smart player, but also there were times in those SEA tournaments that kind of just didn't really do anything on the fragging side in terms of raw numbers. And I think that's why they slotted in Naru in the first place, bringing it back. Also, Maxi looks very tactical, but then you kind of consider why SR Nacague was losing these games in the first place. It wasn't because they were completely lacking firepower. Sure, there were teams that could outgun them in round-to-round basis, but some crucial mistakes against teams like Action PH, fundamentals that had no business to be completely ignored by a direct invite active Philippine team, were happening when not checking those corners, not understanding the sync. And on other rounds, you can see why it's both a blessing and a curse, because some players are just clearing out the site so well. I see them how they push towards A main from a set, and it's just everyone scattering, everyone making sure that all the space is covered. But then you contrast it to that time where Blurred was just waiting by the corner of the doorway, right? And then they're not watching that. Those are the things that need to be ironed out quickly. And I feel like despite Maxi maybe not having as much fragging potential, but he did prove himself though versus Avan and Abyss, don't get me wrong. Him being there on the field is just immediate discipline. It's just an immediate tell to say, guys, let's just make sure we do not screw this up in terms of the execute. And in all honesty, we saw it on Fracture, and we saw it especially on Icebox. How clean SR Nacague could look. It was the same instance. I literally look at that Icebox game. 13-5 for SR Nacague. Maxi down below on the kills. He only had 7, but it's because he didn't need to even frag out. He was just there to keep the team in check, keep the team feeling safe, both in and out of the game. And maybe that's the Band-Aid solution right now. So I do wonder if he can provide that still as a coach. Will we be seeing Naru yet again into the roster? Or will SR Nacague just work with this instead? Because my problem with this one is he might just be a little bit limited on the agent selection itself, the agent field, that everyone else has to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, I will say though, for Naru, he has played multiple agents in the past. So it's not like he doesn't, have that experience. It's more of like, can he bring it to that level? So I think like, before we end, if you guys want to add anything else to this before we go to the next match that I'm looking at here right now, it feels like the fix for SR Nacague here is one of two things, and we'll probably see that coming into next week, whether it's Maxi or Naru that they put back onto the active roster that's playing. It's either they train Maxi's ability to aim duel, a little bit of just a couple of percentage of getting better is going to be a big help to them, because you already mentioned how he just pulls back the team in a really good way, or Naru upping his ability to be tactical as well, be effective with agents that he really needs to be on. Because I think he only has played, for the most part, a Fade, and I think there were some situations where maybe a Sova would have been better. So that's my final piece on SR Nacague. Gentlemen, if you have anything to add, or do we move on to the next match?
I think we move on.
Yeah,
I think
all right.
So
many. But again, Quickcast podcast can't linger too long. This next one, I think, is probably the biggest one. Sky Empire versus Naos Esports from this previous weekend. Sky Empire are on a spiral, and it does not seem like they are stopping from just going down the hill and hitting themselves as they fall down. This is not looking good for them.
Where do we start?
Would everybody agree in unison that they were
Absolutely.
probably the open qualifier team that we expected to be at the top?
Just like if anybody like full watches this and says that we're biased and like, Sky Empire haters or something like that. No, we're just pointing out the facts. No, you know what?
The biggest fan.
Exactly. I learned this from Raph, that you always got to point out the concerns of the viewers. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Just to clarify.
Dude,
But as Nico said, we really did think or thought that Sky Empire definitely would have been one of the top teams from the open qualifiers.
I don't mind being the bad guy here, guys. Honestly, Sky Empire is trying to figure out how the hell they're gonna play this roster. because I mentioned this way before we even got started VCT. These guys are well known. These guys have specific things they're really good at. But now, how do they adjust the roster as a whole? Because one of the things you notice, in contrast to their first outings, was it was Eugene S mostly on that duelist role, right? Kelly S, initiator, and shot caller. But against Now's Esports, you put Kelly S on that race, on that duelist. That's fine, okay. But what does that make the other parts of the roster basically configure as? This puts Eugene S on Killjoy, on Sentinel, because that's the other thing that he's known to play. When you usually have Disrupt who does that, and he does well at it. So what does Disrupt end up playing? He goes to Initiator to fill in that role. Rabbit's always going to be playing Initiator because he's always been one of those best initiators in the Philippines. We remember his Sova, we remember his fate. You know Aryu's going to be playing Controller because he came back to the Valorant field just to do that in the first place. So in a way, the fact that we know that means everyone else is going to know that. The fact that these things are so defined, so rigid for Sky Empire, it really hurts them in adjusting when they feel like they want to try something a little bit different. And when you're already in a 0-3 standing, you're going to hit that big red button. You're going to be panicking right now, trying to figure out what's going on. And I feel like that's the biggest problem right now. How does Sky Empire make this roster work? Because on paper, it is strong. On paper, we believe. But apparently, it's a little bit less, I'd say, stable than we expected.
Yeah, it feels like another Band-Aid fix from what we saw, right? From the switching up of the roles. It's old now, kind of resurfacing itself again in another team. In the sense that, again, they changed up.
Let's be specific. Right. Split 2 nows, not split 1 nows. Because at least split 1 nows was getting results done, right? And that big red button, like Dak said, is exactly what we're seeing. I just really did not expect Sky Empire to go down in flames. Like, to be honest with you, it was very apparent that when we were casting it, I was telling everybody, and honestly, we were having a nice conversation about it, Asurai, where this is a team with a good ceiling, with a good floor. Dax has mentioned everything that contributes to those last 2 points I just said. So what is going on? What is the inner clash? Obviously, we're all outside looking in, but we did not expect it to be this bad. I'd honestly wager, like, give me maybe like 2 weeks ago, I would have even put them still 5-6 at the least, right? But now they're the very bottom. It's crazy. I didn't even expect to not see them in the playoffs because this is not looking good. 0-3. Again, I just want to highlight that. That's 0-3 for a team with a lot of experience. VCT experience, mind you guys.
How about you, Nico? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, if you look at the results, by far, I think their best kind of appearances are when they do have Kelly SB that front line. And that's no knock on Eugene S, because I think he's a good player. But I do think configuration-wise of everybody on this team, when everybody's good on this team anyways, it's just not where it's supposed to be. Like, they have him on that Killjoy on Icebox, but I feel like he'd do better as the Sage instead, and you have Disrupt be that Killjoy that he normally is. Those small things, I think, can have huge impact in the end of things, and I do think that they're kind of stepping towards the right direction with realizing, hey, we play Icebox, let's work in with this. We have Kelly S on that front line where he's known to be one of the best races in the country anyway, so why not utilize that? But in the end of the day, you know, their decision is also going to be difficult to make because you're already coming into week 3. Do you hit that big red button, as Zach said, right? Do you use a Band-Aid solution right now to try and salvage this?
I have a question, right? We were talking about Band-Aid fixes and the team and then switching up roles and such. But I think fundamentally the issue that I saw with Sky Empire, specifically that Pearl map that they played against Abaddon Abyss, I think that was that Abaddon? Wait, no. Naos, I mean, sorry. It felt like they were just disjointed with how they wanted to get that map control, and that really just ruined a lot of the tempo and zone control that they had for the rest of that game. And it took them a very long time, if not very late, to actually realize that and start, kind of meshing well together. So aside from just the Band-Aid fix of switching up the roles, I think it really, I don't know, there's some nerves happening here or something, but it just feels really off jointed with how they played on that Pearl map.
Wait, this might be like a spicy question because honestly, we don't know anything. Anything going on behind the scenes with that team.
Yes.
Actually, just a lot of these teams, right? But do you think this could be maybe like a bit of a mixing pot of opinions and who should be the IGL? Because think about how many
Who was the IGL for this weekend?
Kelly S right now. It's
Kelly
Kelly
S.
S. I think
That's what they say.
At least that's what they say, right? But look, count how many experienced IGLs we have on that team. We have
That's what
Aryu,
they say.
we have Rabbit, we have Kelly S now, and it's like, whose call are we gonna follow? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, this situation, this that. There's obviously gonna be communication. There's obviously gonna be, I guess, conflicting interest. Maybe that's why they're so disjointed, but that's a speculation.
Well, they used to be called the Power
They're
Rangers,
trying to
so
get a
you're saying they need to
Megazord,
find the
okay?
Red
Come
Ranger.
on.
The Red Rangers.
Yeah, you gotta. Someone needs to be
You have to be
ahead.
the Megazord, bro.
Oh.
Like, arm.
Okay.
Arm for an head.
Look, okay, before we go complete panic mode about Sky Empire, there's one thing that they have going for them.
Okay.
They're at least done with Oasis and Naos. And that's something we have to consider. The power levels of the opponents that they've already gone with.
True.
And from what we see, it does seem like Oasis and Naos are 1 and 2 respectively. So from this point on, they should have a clear path. They should have that experience advantage against many other teams, probably except like SR Nacague. But this is my big but here, and it cannot lie, my friend. If they go 0-4, that's when I think where things look pretty hopeless. And that's the problem with going 0-3. This is what the problem with going 0-3. Your room for error now is like at the lowest. And moving forward, sure, you might have the experience advantage against especially the other open qualifier teams. But if they get hot, if they do their research well, or if they just figure out what to do and you don't, then I'm going to be sad to say for Sky Empire, that's them saying goodbye really early on in terms of the standings. Because especially with like big wins by Puggers, big wins by Game Lab Alpha, it does feel like it's gravitating away from them as a whole, this whole standing stable, and they might be the ones left in the dust here.
Yeah, I just gotta add on that, right? Before we go for our conclusions, it's already past 20 minutes. It's very, very good discussion, guys.
Sorry, me.
No, it's totally fine. I love the inputs that we have. So wow, I immediately forgot what I was going to say. So here's the thing, right? Was that the better thing for them to have actually experienced, where they had to face Naos and Oasis so early? Can they build back their confidence? Can they build back whatever they were missing? Or was it better if they had maybe teams that were not Oasis and Naos that they faced against, and then build up from there if they lose or win? I don't know. I'm just thinking about stuff. Yeah,
listen,
just to point it out.
In my opinion, I feel like that's just the personal issue, right? Because let's just say some teams, they want to hit those strong teams first, so they know they can properly gauge and they want to see their top end, right? Like, how far can we actually take themselves? Whereas, let's just say you go against the teams that are kind of like middle of the pack, or maybe even in the lower areas of the circuit. It's like, yes, you're taking your wins, but how valid do they feel, right? They're still really good teams, but in comparison to the top 2 teams, there is a big gap. So it's like, hey, absolutely. You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, fighting those smaller teams can sometimes give these lesser experienced teams that momentum and confidence, basically, to get going at this. And I feel like, especially if you beat a bigger team, like, frankly, if we compare them to another team, Action PH, or also a newer team, and then suddenly you're able to beat a team like SR Nacague,
here's what
that gives you big confidence
before we go for our closing. So on our group chat, I just sent us a screenshot of the 4 matches that will be had this weekend. One team that you think it's either they do really good or they do really bad. Just one team that you kind of want to see, or that pops up in this 4 matches that we have. Whether it's good or bad, it's all right.
I'm gonna give you the surprise answer because I feel like there's some big
and who
big
their opponent
here.
is against. So just clarify.
For me, this is honestly the matchup to watch out for, and it's the one you expect the least of the 4. The biggest matchup here right now is Puggers versus Sky Empire.
Dude, I was gonna say the same things, man.
Why you guys all getting the hot take with me?
He's obviously gonna say the same thing.
Oh my god, fellow hot takers. You can't be like this.
Listen, it's
I wanted to be the one to
Expound
be like,
why.
this is the series that will define who might end up being eliminated early on. And I guess y'all figured that out. So that's lame.
Honestly, for me, it wasn't that. It was more of like I just wanted to see how Puggers go forward. From that win against Game Lab Alpha, because that's their first dub. They still didn't look as cohesive at all, I think. But again, their star power is there. I really am turning into a big fan of Ninitops. He is proving to be a crucial player for that team. So that's the reason why I picked this particular series.
That's why you flipped your prediction. That's why he flipped his prediction last minute. This guy, I called him out immediately. He's like, you can't do that to the prod, man.
I'm sorry. All right, so
dirty.
for context, we had to put in our predictions earlier just so that it helps out, even out the discussion. So we were all Game Lab Alpha.
Screw it.
We're not going deep into it. Just to help out the discussion flow. All right, that's about it. And somehow my brain did a reset, and then I said Puggers because I was thinking Ninitops, right? And I was like Bloody Marying him on front of the monitor or something. And then, lo and behold, they won.
He sees one Sage Wall play and he's like,
This is not the Sage Wall play. Man. He had a really good stint as a KO, I believe, as well. So that's the one. All right.
Fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about Nico? How about Black and Blue? What match pops up to you? It's okay if it's the Puggers versus Sky Empire one too.
Well, because
you can take the hot take too.
Dax took the hot take. No, but frankly, I think I'm pretty interested with the very first game of that weekend in Naos and Action, because Action litmus test versus SR Nacague, good. An even tougher task they have to do this time around versus Naos, and frankly, I think there's a okay chance that they could take it.
Yeah.
Like if Naos don't show up the best that they might be that day, because we have seen that from this Naos squad, then Action PH
it was a good
really
gauge against
throw
Oasis.
this up,
Sure, they
could even be top 3 at the end of this stage.
But it was more of Oasis realizing, guys, let's stop throwing these leads away over Action PH struggling more so on that second map, because Action PH played in Oasis's playground of Haven and they took them to overtime. That was one of the closest Haven games Oasis has had in so long, and it really just goes to show that this squad, we had reservations for good reason. Let's be real. They were like, why the hell are these guys invited?
Yeah.
Okay, you look at the roster, sure, fine. We'll give them that pass. But we have never seen them play together, right? But they have been such a welcome surprise in a way, because we expected it from the roster, from the names themselves, but we didn't expect it to be like this, to be this strong. And if they even beat Naos down in a way, or they make it at least close, it really just goes to show that this Action PH roster is here to play. And even with their most recent, being the most recent squad, it's fine because these guys are ready to play. These guys are ready for VCT. Which one?
Don't lie, that Ascent game was super hype.
Yeah, that was pretty hype too. I like that one.
So, I'm just gonna say this.
Nacague,
I did say APH was gonna be my dark horse, even when we're still doing our study session. Because, like I said, Action PH. And then you look at the roster and it's like, that's pretty stacked. In all honesty, again, this kind of goes back to Sky Empire again. They're doing what we thought Sky Empire would do, to challenge number 1 and 2 convincingly. They might lose, but it's like, that was a convincing challenge. They made the top teams bleed. And yeah, I guess that goes back to why that matchup's pretty good. But man, you guys took a lot of the ones that I wanted to talk about. Again, Action PH, my dark horse. But no, I have another one. Actually, I kind of want to watch all these games, but of course, Abaddon. I always want to watch the Abaddon games.
That's Abaddon's my dark horse, man.
The Cebuana likes the Cebu here.
Of course, because like.
Sobaya.
Man.
Yes, sir.
Abaddon
I mean,
Oasis.
guys. We obviously, the foreigners need to stick together, right?
Yes. Abaddon Abyss. Some of their players, homegrown from Asurai Showdown series. That's why we support.
Wow, he's taking credit for it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, their Asurai Showdown series.
Are you calling them an
grown.
ass
All right.
team,
That's it for this episode of the
Whoa.
Quickcast podcast. Yes, right out of there.
You can't spell abyss without
ass. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to see you on the next one for episode 3. And yeah, see you as well on the broadcast days. Ciao and bye.